So I've been a reader pretty much all my life, and even as a kid, I knew that reading was pretty much magic. The idea that ink on a page could create such a vivid image literally blew my mind as a child, and it still does. The thing is, I've been in a little bit of a reading slump, so every single new story that I try to take in, I DNF. So I was inspired by other creators on YouTube and Instagram, but mainly at Books and Lala on YouTube, to do a little experiment and try to reread some of my favorite books from my childhood. So I've chosen 5 books for this little experiment, and I plan to read and rate these out of 5 stars and also rank them favorite to least favorite. I just kind of want to see if they're actually good stories or if I just thought they were as a kid. I also want to see if this experiment can kind of cure my reading slump and remind me why I love to read. So the first book I chose for this little experiment is the first ever book in the Magic Treehouse series. So the book is called Dinosaurs Before Dark, and it's written by Mary Pope Osborne. This book was released in 1992, so a little bit before my time, but I probably read it around 2007 when I was 6. I had pretty much this whole collection. A big portion of my bookshelf as a kid was dedicated to this series, but I don't remember anything about it. The next book that's also released in 1992 is Welcome to Dead House, the first ever book in the Goosebumps series. So I probably read this around 2008 when I was 7, so I pretty much got into this series because of my older brother, who would try to scare me by telling me what the books were about and showing me the cover and everything. I remember reading them at a young age and being so scared and shocked that I just had to keep turning the page. I don't think I ever read Welcome to Dead House, but I'm excited to see what it's all about. Next up, we have one that most people in my generation are gonna recognize, Diary of a Wimpy Kid by Jeff Kinney. The first book was released in 2007, but I probably read it in 2009 when I was 8-ish. Definitely starting to get more into that middle grade level, but this one still has pictures, so. Next up is The Maze of Bones, the first book in the 39 Clues series by Rick Riordan. This series technically came out in 2008, but I probably didn't read it until 2010-ish when I was 9, so I probably got this at the book fair. I don't really remember much. I just know it's basically a mystery for middle grade, so I'm excited to get into that. And the last book I'm going to be reading in this little experiment is Gracefully Grayson by Amy Polonsky. So this is probably the least well known on this list. It came out around 2014, so I must have read it when I was 12 or 13. But all I remember is the main character was trans. I don't remember anything about the plot, and I'm excited to see how this one holds up specifically because I don't know anything. Okay, so I'm on page 25 of Dinosaurs After Dark, and honestly, it holds up. I'm really enjoying it. And I know we don't have illustrations in adult books for a reason, but I'm maybe we should bring them back. That's the tree house, and then we've got this illustration of him looking at the pterodon. I forgot that the treehouse has to do with books. They go up in it, and it's filled with books, an endless library in there. And whatever they read, boom, they just appear there. And that's a cool concept. Another thing I'm noticing is the kids are in danger often. They see a huge dinosaur up on the hill, and they are running back into the treehouse. They are cautious and being smart. I think there's so many lessons that this teaches young readers, and I kind of see why I loved it. There's basically a chase scene happening where Jack is hiding from a T-Rex, and he literally says Tyrannosaurus Rexes can eat humans in one bite. And so the stakes are pretty high. The kids are in the treehouse trying to find a way to get back home, and the T-Rex is banging into their tree, shaking the whole treehouse. Okay, so I finished Dinosaurs Before Dark. I feel it does the job of what it was intended to do, but it was also really thrilling and mysterious. It literally leaves you without a question answered, which is so rare for a kid's book. You have to continue the series to find out who owns this medallion with the M initial on it. So now I'm do I keep reading? I kind of want to know, why did this literally still hold up? Okay, so I am maybe 60 pages into this book, and little to no horror-based things have happened. There's subtle instances of the windows blinds moving, or creepy dreams that the kids are having. The scariest thing about this is the parents. The way these parents are not parenting, their kids are expressing genuine fear and concern, and they're just oh my god, you're dramatic, get away. And I'm These poor kids, like, obviously sometimes kids are delusional and think there's a monster when there's not, but you can still, like, be kind to them and, like, help them through it. All right, it's time for Diary of a Wimpy Kid. One of my all-time childhood faves. I'm so excited to read this again. The art, the pictures in this make me so nostalgic and happy. Like, I'm so excited. This line right here is where my delusion started. Okay, so I was able to read about a third of the book in one sitting. Obviously, it's written for children and has a lot of pictures, but honestly, there isn't much of a cohesive storyline. It's kind of just Greg reporting on his life throughout each month. And as a horror fan, I really enjoyed reading the October pages because they talk about Halloween and haunted houses and dressing up, trick-or-treating, etc. And it was just a nice throwback to my childhood. Okay, it is time to start the 39 clues. I have no idea what this book is about. I completely forgot. I know it's a mystery. There's bones on the cover. This one is called Maze of Bones, but I literally got one page in. Why does this book start with death? And they like describe it. Like, that's scary. What the heck? Okay, so early on in the book, the two main characters, grandma dies, and she basically leaves this video message and a will to all of their extended family that says, you can either take $1 million and leave, or take a clue and go on this journey to solve and find 39 clues for like the greatest treasure and power in the world. So personally, I'm taking the 1 million and leaving. Because I'm not doing 39 clues. Maybe if it was 5, nearly 40, like that's crazy. The plot line of a relative leaving a will that requires the family to solve a mystery in order to inherit their fortune is a trend in media that I tend to like. So the YA book series Inheritance Games comes to mind. That's one of my favorites, has a similar plot. And the movie Knives Out has a similar plot. So I guess this is where it all started for me. The main character in this book has my name, and I'm assuming that's why I loved it so much as a kid. Okay, so I'm like halfway through 39 clues. Okay, Brian. It's interesting. I don't think I realized how many middle grade books are educational. So basically the main characters in this book are related to every single influential person in history. And so they're going to museums and things to learn about these people. For example, Benjamin Franklin is related to them. And so it teaches you about Benjamin Franklin and his letters and things that he did. Also, halfway through, there's fully an attempted murder. These two kids get bombed. A bomb goes off in the museum. So, okay, so I just finished the 39 clues. I think, weirdly enough, out of all the books I've read so far, this one's the most unrealistic. These kids are just traveling the world, no care in the world, no one needs them, and their babysitter doesn't care. I also want more answers. Okay, I'm about to start Gracefully Grayson. I have approximately 2 days to read this, and it's like 200 pages, but it's middle grade, so it should go by quick. I'm interested to see how this aged because it's about a trans kid in middle school, and it's from 2014, so before its time. So I'm going into it a little skeptical. I don't really remember anything about it, but I remember reading it. Okay, so that was a wild ride. Younger me definitely had some hits and some misses. Let's talk about it. So, Magic Treehouse. I enjoyed this book. It was surprisingly really good. So it basically follows Jack and Annie, these two siblings that find a treehouse basically in their backyard, and it's filled with books. I did not remember that aspect at all. It's full of books, and when you read the book and you say, I want to go here, it just takes you there. It travels to that time in history. So I think that's a brilliant way to teach kids reading this series about history. They can pull books that sound interesting, like if they love dinosaurs, get them Dinosaurs Before Dark, and they can learn the history of these things through the eyes of Jack and Annie. There was also some pretty tense scenes for a kid's book, like Jack pretty much almost dies, so it's a little scary. But Mary Pope did a really good job at sliding in some educational aspects in there, and it read really well. So to answer the experiment questions, yes, this does have good writing. Yes, it did hold up. I would recommend it to elementary readers now. And I'm gonna give it a 4 out of 5 stars. So next we have Welcome to Dead House. This one was interesting. My biggest takeaway from this book is how annoying the parents were. The way these parents gaslit their kids, and the kids are pleading for their help, and the parents just aren't listening to them and are dismissing them, saying, "You're annoying me, go away," when your child is like pleading in fear. Wouldn't you help that child and care for that child? But the concept overall is pretty interesting. Spoiler alert, it's about a small town of residents that are all dead that lure families in who are alive just to kill them and repeat the cycle. There's a couple tense scenes where this family is trusting their neighbors and their friends, and they're actually all ghosts set to kill them. There's a scene in the graveyard that I really enjoyed where there's this sort of underground amphitheater where all the ghosts gather to kill each family. And so they have the parents of our main characters like tied up and ready to be killed, and the kids wind up saving them. It's a happy ending. So that is pretty scary, especially for elementary level readers. Also, the dog in this fully dies, like never comes back to life, is dead and stuck in this town, and the family loses their dog. Like, that's so sad. Is this my favorite Goosebumps story ever? Not really, but was it good? Of course, it's Goosebumps. The writing definitely holds up. Somehow, r.l.stine never fails to write relatable protagonists that are flawed, and the way just enough detail is given to scare kids is really impressive. As for a rating, I usually don't like to give half stars, but I have to give this a 4.5. Minus 0.5 because the dog died. And next is Diary of a Wimpy Kid. Definitely did not remember a lot of what happens in this book. There were times where I was literally laughing out loud. The book overall is a really cool concept, and I'm not sure if Jeff Kinney invented the diary concept, but I just love how realistic it feels that this kid is just writing in his diary, and the little drawings in it make sense because Greg is literally a comic book artist, like he draws, so it would make sense for the character to write about his day and draw a little picture. It just felt so accurate to the middle school experience. Like, all the characters are flawed, but at the end of the day, it's just about family and making it through middle school and life. It was just a great read. I think the writing really holds up. There was not many references in here that aged badly. Like, I think this could still apply to middle grade readers today. As for the rating, I might be biased, but I have to give it 5 stars. It was just that good. Like, what? Next is The Maze of Bones. This is teetering toward not good. It basically follows these two siblings whose grandma passes away, and it's sort of like a Knives Out, inheritance games type plot, if you know those stories. Book starts with their grandma dying, and in her will, she leaves a video, and the whole entire extended family has played this video. And she's like, you guys can either take $1 million or solve these like 39 clues all over the world. And if they solve it, they'll get this like mystery prize that is like the best prize anyone could ever get in the whole world. My immediate thought, chapter 1, was, I'm taking the 1 million. Right away, I thought, I'm taking the 1 million and I'm out. Because what? 39 clues. 30, like 39, nearly 40 clues you want me to travel the world. So basically, the two main characters in this book were like literal orphans, like their parents died tragically. Yeah, so they basically just travel the world with their babysitter, no parents, their aunt doesn't care, nobody cares, they're not in school. They just travel, they go to Paris, and it's called The Maze of Bones because they go in the catacombs of Paris. So there is aspects of mystery, thriller, horror in here, but overall, it was pretty silly. Like, I think silly is a good word to describe it. The villains in this book are cartoonish and comical, and there is fully attempted murder. I think multiple times. There's a bombing to try and stop these kids from solving the 39 clues. Their family bombs them. But the educational aspects were pretty interesting. So it's basically like, somehow the kids in this book and their whole family are related to like every single historical figure ever. Overall, it was short and sweet. It was cute. I think it was pretty of its time. So I think the writing style aged pretty poorly. For my rating, I'll give it a hesitant 3 out of 5 stars. And finally, the last book I read, Gracefully Grayson. You guys? Okay, let me start off by saying this is my opinion. I am a member of the LGBTQ community. I did read this as a kid and I'm pretty sure I enjoyed it, but as an adult, this has aged so badly, guys. This book is so problematic that it's harmful. Like, it does no good. Basically, it's about our main character, who is dead named the entire book as Grayson, who is a trans girl. Her two parents tragically die in a car accident. Traumatic. And so her and her siblings move in with their aunt and uncle. So Grayson lives with her literal verbally abusive aunt and older brother. So spoiler warning if you haven't read this. Grayson is cast as Persephone in the school play, and two boys in her class literally bully her to the point of hate crimery. There is a hate crime in this book. These two boys in her middle school class push her down the stairs because she's trans. I can't even. And to make it all worse, no, this reveal was crazy. Like, I literally was like, what am I reading? Her biological parents, who died in the car crash, supported her transness. And they allowed her to dress up and go by she, her, and they believed in her and they supported her. And then when they died and she moved in with her aunt and uncle, the aunt forced her back into the closet and gaslit her into thinking she was never trans. She had a little phase of having dresses. And so Grayson doesn't remember any of that. So a lot of the book is her like looking in the mirror like, why don't I like how I look? Why do I want to be in dresses and girl clothes? Her aunt basically said, everyone's gonna bully you if you're trans. So we just forced you not to be. It is crazy. Like, you can just tell, no offense to the author, but you can just tell this was not written by a trans person. Our main character is never, not once, called by her chosen name or her chosen pronouns. It basically ends on this bleak ending of basically her theater teacher who casted her as Persephone, like, changes jobs and moves, but it's alluded to that he got fired because he's gay and he casted a trans girl as a lead. And that's how the book ends. Just her being like, I had a great show in theater and I miss my teacher, but he's gone. But she still lives with her abusive family and never gets to be supported or come into her transness. It's really, really sad and unfortunate. I will say there were some positive aspects. Like, I did enjoy the scenes of her in theater. So I definitely appreciated the dialogue in theater where they actually support Gracie, and that was nice, but there were just so many unforgivable scenes and terrible characters in this book. And so I hate to do it, but I'm giving it a 2 out of 5 stars. The 2 stars are solely because I actually really did like Gracie herself, the character, but everything else was a miss for me. The writing aged poorly, and I can commend it for coming out in 2014 and being a little bit before its time, trying to push trans acceptance. It was just done in such an improper way that I think it's harmful. So I would find a more current book written by an actual trans person to recommend to middle grade readers. So I don't think my final ranking is going to be very shocking, but at the bottom, 5th place, we have Gracefully Grayson, deserved. 4th place, we have The 39 Clues. It just was very unbelievable. Like, I didn't believe it. 3rd place, I'm gonna have to give to Magic Treehouse solely because the plot of the dinosaurs. In 2nd place, I'm gonna put Welcome to Dead House. Again, not just because of the book specifically, but just because I love Goosebumps. I have so much nostalgia. And in 1st place, my favorite out of the 5 books is Diary of a Wimpy Kid. Truly still entertained me as an adult to this day in current times. Would reread the rest of the series because I had so much fun. It's just such an easy read. So when thinking about what I learned from this experiment, I truly think that everyone should do this. It was so nostalgic to reconnect with my younger self and read what he used to read and connect with him, put myself back in his shoes and see where I was coming from. I truly think that this experience did cure my reading slump in the sense that really good books reminded me how good some books can be and how much I liked them as a kid. And the books I didn't love as much encouraged me to pick something that's actually going to be enjoyable for my next read. So I think, yeah, this did cure my reading slump in a way. I would say overall, everyone should try this challenge. It's super fun to connect with your younger self, read stuff you used to read, and just have a fun time. Thank you so much for watching. I have a few videos in store, so be sure to subscribe. Comment if you've read any of these books, if you like any of these books. Make sure you follow me on Instagram @apaperbackprince, and stay tuned for what's coming next. See you in the next chapter.